you want to make sure that those folks that are adopting your database are going to market to that database. They don't just kind of wait for you to call and go, I got another referral for you. Yeah. Like when you were talking about upfront costs, like other than their time and their commitment, there isn't anything. But, for them to know that you're expecting them to reach out, contact them, stay in touch, let them know, where they're at, it's super important.
Is there an element that we owe it to our consumer too? You sell somebody a house 15, 20 years ago, and they're relying on your monthly, weekly updates and your telephone calls and the little client notes and pop-bys that you do. Is there an element in that we owe it to them to, even when we move out of town or retire, do we owe them something in terms of, hey, thanks so much for your business, and I want to take care of you even in my absence, even if I retire or move out?
Very few people have a stable of realtors, especially in residential real estate. Maybe more on the commercial side, maybe they do. But in the residential side, unless you're an investor, you probably have had maybe cycled through one or two realtors in your whole residential ownership career. And so if you're that person, then like you just said, you really owe it to them that, hey, listen, I got your back. I know you're not buying or selling in any time in the near future, but if you do, or if you know anybody that does, I've got you. I've got you taken care of.
So we're back with another episode of Coffee Beans and Real Estate, and we're back with an old friend, or still old friend, new friend. You've been here before.
I have.
And we're going to switch gears a little bit today.
Yeah.
Sarah Garner, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Sure.
Take it away.
Well, Manny and I have known each other for 19 years. I was at Royal LePage Supreme all that time until very recently I made a transition to Royal LePage Pro Alliance in Picton. So I think,
and we're still friends.
And we're still friends. And I think that's something we're kind of going to talk about today. I think about transitions and making moves. So I'm really excited to chat about that.
Yeah, and listen, and I know you came a long way to be with us today and talk about this. The premise of the show is, the pursuit of it. And we discussed on the first episode that we did, we spoke about scarcity, the mindset.
Yeah.
Today we're going to, maybe we'll touch on it again.
Sure.
But we're gonna get into the Supreme Adoption Plan, and which is something you're going to tell us why you moved and what we're doing. And I want to, I'm looking for answers as to why realtors are so reluctant to hand it off or to engage in this.
Yeah.
So the scarcity, do you want to bring back what we spoke about the first time and how your whole mindset needs to be in this business?
So, it's not unique to realtors, but I think that so many people suffer from, what I coined, it's not my expression, but this idea of a scarcity mindset that I'm never going to quite have enough, and I'm always kind of pushing towards that next thing, and you don't really settle into what it is that you have, and so you're like literally chasing that carrot all the time, and I think that there's a propensity for realtors to especially suffer from this because there's this attitude that you're only as good as your next deal. And so what if there isn't another deal? So you're pushing all the time, and you also aren't living in that present moment, which is kind of a mindfulness thing. And, if you're able to kind of capture that present moment, all of a sudden the fruits of all your business all of a sudden are more important, but also it has this expansive effect because you start realizing that the relationships that you have, not only in your business, but in your personal life, everything just seems more abundant. So it's this dichotomy between scarcity and abundance. And, if we can arrive somewhere where we have some level of mindfulness about this idea of abundance, then that whole scarcity anxiety tends to you can exhale a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we're self-employed, and You're right. Am I ever going to sell another house? Like we live in that mindset, and I think it's inherent in this business, or maybe being a business owner, you always have that fear, that concern. How long have you been? How long you've been in a business, and when did you discover that whole mindset, and how did it change your path?
So I've been trading in real estate since 2007. I kind of had a little bit of a slow start. I remember seeing some people that got their license and right out of the gate, they were just, doing 10, 15, 20 deals a year. And I was slow to get going. And then honestly, if I can give Brian Buffini's group a plug.
Always.
That really was when my business started to transition in a completely different direction. I started being coached one-on-one by a Buffini coach. I just kind of adopted the whole, notes, pop-bys, and calls, and just understanding the importance of nurturing your database. Okay, so fast forward, then I started building confidence, and to your great word, I started building momentum. And so, 5-6 years into my business, I'm getting referrals. People are calling me back. I'm getting recommended. And that's when I started getting busier. But that's not when the scarcity mindset left me. As a matter of fact, I think it even got more exaggerated then, because now I actually have some skin in the game and I've got more to lose.
Right.
And so that's kind of, I think you kind of get a bit wound up then. To be fair, there is a positive side to that, because I think that you tend to be a bit more driven. You're hungrier, but you're still living with that kind of scarcity mindset.
Which is the way a business owner lives, right? Like on a day-to-day. You sort of have to. You can't rest on what you've done. Like you're growing your business, you're evolving your business, your mind, and the way you approach things, and which is really a good sort of segue into your next step or your next transition, which was precipitated, I guess, mostly but not entirely because you moved. You moved out of the GTA, so you had built a business that you were able to sort of offload.
But I didn't know I could offload it. So I had this fallacy, and I had this delusional idea that I found a great piece of property, and my husband and I moved, out of, like you say, out of the GTA. And I still had roots in Toronto. I have family here, and I had a really prosperous database here in my business. So I was under the impression, hey, I can come back a couple of days a week. I'll take care of my database. I'll continue to transact here. Maybe I can build some of my business in my new market. Well, no. Only
we had spoken about that before you moved. To be fair, we had spoken about it because, and maybe we'll get into it. When is it a good time to? When is the right time? I'm not sure there is a right time, but you start thinking about winding down your business at some point, and we had conversations in the past about certain things, which is healthy, right? Like as a business owner, you can't just wake up one morning and say, look, I'm going to close up shop. It's unfair to yourself, to your business, to your clients. But we had spoken about it, but then life changed, you changed.
And there's a mind-body connection, too, between, like, your intention may be, hey, listen, I'm getting older, my husband's retired, but you may think that you're ready, but it literally took me 7 months to realize that, that this pattern that I thought was going to work about this commuting wasn't really going to work, and B, that I got to a place mentally that I said, okay, I think I can make this transition now. But that's a really organic thing for a lot of people. And I think that inherently real estate agents are a bit of control freaks, and so they're
Are we now?
we're holding on for dear life, and nobody else can do this job because my database only knows me, and they'll only transact with me.
Oh man, we can do a show just on that alone, and it's true. And listen, I got to be honest, it applies to us as well, like to broker owners, and I know the broker owner community is ill prepared for the next phase of our lives. I mean, we like to hang on, and oftentimes they hang on way too long as broker owners. But so you recognize that you couldn't commute, but you couldn't really nurture the relationships and service the clients in a healthy way by being. Really, it's a fair distance, right? And it wouldn't be fair to you either to commute all that.
No, and I think that also when I realized that I wanted to try to build a business where I'm living,
Right.
that was also part of it. So okay, but to the point is, how do you honor the people that have been so good to you over all the years that they've been loyal, continue to call you, continue to refer you? That's the tipping point in a lot of ways. Like, how am I going to honor all those relationships? Am I just going to walk away and go, see ya? And they're going to be like, what happened to you?
Yeah, it's unfair to them, right?
It
like
is.
you have relationships, and like in my case, I go back almost 4 decades. Your case too.
Yeah.
What do you do with those relationships? Is it unfair to just sort of, when you come to the end of the road, and you just walk away from them? But tell us how you're handling it and what your experience is, and please touch on. I'll just let you take it away. Touch on that whole. Is it our egos that say Sarah can only work with me or Manny can only work with me? Tell us about the experience that you have. We're not going to name names or anything, but how has your experience been with that? It's early days for you. It
is. Yeah, so I think that, I kind of took some leads from some recommendations that you gave me. And so I think like a 30,000-foot view of this, what we're calling this adoption plan, is to sort of finally you get to this place where you go, okay, I think I'm ready to pass the torch. And what does that mean? Are you completely going to check out, meaning that you're literally just going to hand over something to a trusted peer or, someone else in the industry? Or are you going to have some sort of engagement that you're going to continue to work with your database? Are you going to act as a consultant with these people these realtors that are going to be working with your database? So one of the first things you got to do is decide, what level of involvement you're going to have.
Right.
And I think I'm sort of getting to a place where I feel I still need to, be the first point of contact.
Okay.
So
let's take a step back.
Sure.
So you've handed this over to a person or persons, right? Like your database. You have contractual agreements where that says, hey, I'm out of town, I'm out of reach, I'm not out of touch with the database, but you're going to take care of my business in Toronto,
right?
Or GTA.
Yeah.
So you've already appointed or assigned somebody to that?
I kind of just tried to do my homework. And the other thing, what I looked for, and this may help people who are thinking about doing this, look for somebody who you feel who aligns with the way that you've built your business.
Right.
So, like if you're, a really tough negotiator and you're really, a hardliner and you're super, aggressive either on the buy or the sell side, then you're going to want to find somebody who also is like that. If you're looking for somebody that's like more relationship based, that's going to, reach out to your clients in a way that's similar to the way you reached out to your clients. So really, one of the things I read is like, don't pick your best friend. Don't pick a relative. Pick somebody that you really feel is aligned with your mindset and the way that you've approached your business all the years that you were with your business. So that's really what I was looking for when I selected somebody that, they're kind of a younger version of me, a little bit more fire still left in them. But
I don't know. I mean, sure, you're being kind and you're being, I think analytically you can say that they have a little bit more, but I think you still have a lot of fire in your belly and still a lot of fuel, long way to go. And I trust that you're building a database or you're building almost from scratch, right?
Yeah, which is weird.
We often say, if I knew then what I know today. So you have an opportunity to do that, to start almost fresh in a new community, a new brokerage. So let's not have, in hindsight, go back in 5 years and have a discussion, I should have done different. You have an opportunity to start from scratch with 20 years experience.
Yeah, start from scratch from 20 years experience. And also, just to fold back on, the selection process, is that if we go with the assumption that realtors are a bit of control freaks, then you want to know that whoever you selected, that you can kind of relax. Right. And that's the way I feel right now. I feel like my database is in really good hands. And as long as the lines of communication stay open, and as long as, we're going to take, bi-weekly calls or whatever, just to keep up to date with what's going on, I don't have to, review the contracts. I don't have to, check on the deals, because I know it's being taken care of. Just
basically handed over the keys. So you found somebody, you did your homework, did your research, somebody that aligns with you and your way of doing a business, but also aligns with your database, because your database is a living thing, right? And it has a personality. Your database would be different than mine.
Yeah.
And it has a personality and a pulse, if you will.
That's so true.
It has to align. So you've done that. So I just want to slow things down. So
sure.
You decided you had to move, a whole, a different part of the province, which is exciting. We can talk about that afterwards. And you've made the decision, you selected somebody and it's working. Your role and involvement, you've touched on it. You're contacting still your database. You're still engaged. You're the first point of contact. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. For now, I just feel that, and I sent out communications to my database. I've informally introduced who the database has been handed off to, with a little CV, and stay tuned, because you'll get more information. Because what I want to do is I want to instill trust in my database that I would never jeopardize, or I would never compromise their representation with people that I didn't really feel confident with. So that's sort of part of my job now. It's like I'm a bit of a cheerleader, and saying, this is going to be great.
But we already have data. You've tested this already, and it's worked.
Yeah.
You've already engaged in this whole, we call it the supreme handoff, adoption plan, whatever you want to call it. And there are books out there. There's plenty of literature. And the book that you and I read in preparation for this was the Golden Handoff.
Yep.
Well done. I mean, you can implement different nuances, little takeaways from the book, and apply some of our own and customize it. But you've tested it without getting into names and details or even area codes. How did the first one go?
Fantastic. So what I want to say is that, so it was a referral from my database. And that's something else that, contractually, I'm just gonna take a short detour. Contractually, there's kind of two levels that you could do this at. One is anybody that's in your database that transacts with the people that are adopting your database, that's a justifiable and bona fide referral.
Right.
However, I've built into my contract, because my database is quite small, I get a lot of referrals, third-party referrals. So a direct contact from my database will call me and say, hey, listen, I have an uncle, I have a child, I'd love you to have a discussion with them. So that child or uncle is not in my database.
Right.
But in the contract that I'm building with the adoption plan, those people also trigger a referral.
It's an extension of the database. So you can customize it.
Sure.
There's no hard and fast rule to any of this. There's no etched in stone. You can customize. We're not going to get into the actual dollars, but every referral, any extension of that database, there's a form of referral, monetary sort of compensation for the amount of effort that you've put into it and the ongoing efforts that you continue to maintain and nurture the relationships.
Also, I just want to say that I think that, there has to be a really open and honest conversation about kind of where that ends. Because, is it a referral over a referral over a referral? So it has to be, and it's, as you say, it's like customizable. It's whatever, whatever works for that particular relationship. But then it becomes an honor system because, like, if you say to somebody, hey, if you get a listing from my database and somebody walks into the open house, I'm going to claim a portion of that commission. That's, to me, in my mind, that doesn't seem right. So,
and it's tough to track, too.
It is, right? And, if you have a 400-plus database, then maybe just the folks from your database is going to be enough. But as I mentioned, my database is small, and so I do a lot of referrals.
Well, I mean, you're being very, very modest and kind about your database. You have a really strong, robust, to quantify it as small in terms of numbers, right? Like 100, 200, 300. I don't think is the only fair assessment of a database. You can have a database with a high net worth. You can have a database that is really tight and connected, and they're going to refer and loyal. So, to size that up and say, well, I know 500 people, therefore I have a big database. I'm going to, it doesn't always work out that way.
Fair.
So you have a strong database. So we had a story years ago. It's like pruning a fruit tree. Right?
I know.
You said, Manny, I got to get healthier fruit.
Yeah.
And you pruned your database and your business doubled.
Kind of.
Which is your referrals doubled. And
also, just to that point, we're getting a little off topic, but we don't
have a topic here.
Okay. When I really did, kind of take the axe to my database of whatever 7 or 8 years ago, I really spent and focused more time on the people that that cared about me and that I cared about them.
Right. And
so that was the difference there.
Quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
So again, the definition of a database is not, I'm going to call Manny. I have 400 people in my database.
True.
Let's identify like what is your business model. What it's not just a hard and fast number that's going to lead to success. So you're monetizing it. If it's already paid dividends, it's already worked. You were going to tell us how the first one came about.
Yeah, so I got a call, and the gentleman who I didn't know, I think he texted me first, said, I got your name from William. And William is a great client of mine. And, do you work out of the city? Because I'm looking at a potential property out of the city. And so I felt, oh, wow, this is the perfect opportunity to introduce the people who've adopted my database. I said, well, as a matter of fact, Stephen, I don't work out of the city, but I have somebody who does.
We're using fictitious names. I don't know if we are or not, but let's just go with
We are.
Yeah.
And I would be so happy to introduce you.
How did that go?
And before the introduction, what was so awesome was he said, you come so highly recommended by William, and he esteems you so highly that whoever you refer him to handle the business, we're good with. So I can't emphasize enough this concept of trust.
Trust, yeah.
So it was just like, listen, if they're okay for you, they're good for us.
Right.
And, I was getting plugged in and getting weekly updates about the transaction. And, there's a couple little hiccups. They extended the conditional period a little bit. And it firmed up last week.
Have you spoken to William since or ongoing?
Yes. And just to say, thank you so very much. And then the who's adopted the plan also went over there with a bottle of wine and just said, "Thank you so much. We are so grateful for the referral, and we got this. We're going to take great care of your client, of your referral."
Yeah, of course. I mean, you did your homework in finding or pairing the right person or persons
exactly
to work with your database. So it's an extension of you, and it worked. And you have like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
So it carries on forward, and the whole trust. You can transfer the trust, right? There is a transfer of trust, and the relationship. And we have this realtors. We have this mindset that, oh no, they only want to work with me, but
right.
That wasn't your experience at all.
No, and you got to get over yourself. Literally. I mean,
you keep telling me that. You keep telling over the years. Yeah,
don't be so humble. You're not that great.
Yeah, but there's a lot of truth to that. And we think no, there's no way they would work with somebody else, but they do, because you hand over the trust.
And it's the way that you introduce and that you show confidence in the people or person
right.
that you've selected. If you're like, I don't really know, I'm not really sure if this is going to work, but let me give them your name. No, it's you're 100% on board. You vetted these people or persons. This is you're committed. Having said all that, you have to be prepared that not every single person is going to want to move forward with somebody else, and that's okay too.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go in with that mindset, and you're going to lose people, whether it's you or the people. You're going to lose for somebody in the family gets their license, or best friends or whatever. We're going to lose people,
right.
But you did a really good job, and it's a job maintaining, calling your database and nurturing it and building the relationship to the extent that it can come across. It can come from somewhere south of the border or from another province, because it's the trust factor. They trust you enough, and then they'll trust you to trust somebody else and hand it over. Is there an element that we owe it to our consumer too? You sell somebody a house 15, 20 years ago, and they're relying on your monthly, weekly updates and your telephone calls and the little client notes and pop-bys that you do. Is there an element in that we owe it to them to, even when we move out of town or retire, do we owe them something in terms of, thanks so much for your business. I want to take care of you even in my absence, even if I retire or move out. I want to make sure you're taken care of.
That is so true. And, for all the trust that a client has bestowed on you, the very least you can do is tell them, hey, listen, I acknowledge you. I thank you so much for your loyalty, and I'm not leaving you high and dry.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, and I think that a lot of realtors don't quite get that.
Well, the vast majority, Sarah, in my experience, we're looking at the overwhelming majority of realtors, even brokers, don't have an exit strategy. We don't have a plan, a strategy to leave the business. And when they do, it's abrupt. And then the client we'll get a call one day in the office, hey, can I speak to Jane Doe? Oh no, she's no longer in the business. What am I going to do? And it's unfair. And we don't plan for those things, because we don't have a business person mindset, do we?
Can I quote you?
Oh, please. Yeah. As long as it's curse free and
it is. Well, yeah. Years ago, and we talked about this earlier today, you told me that if you don't take care of your database, it will take care of you, and not the way you're hoping.
Oh, yeah.
So, that just speaks to acknowledging, how grateful you are for them being so loyal. And like you say, we owe it to them to, very few people have a stable of realtors, especially in residential real estate. Maybe more on the commercial side, maybe they do. But in the residential side, unless you're an investor, you probably have had maybe cycled through one or two realtors in your whole residential ownership career.
Good point.
And so if you're that person, then like you just said, you really owe it to them that, hey, listen, I got your back. I know you're not buying or selling in any time in the near future, but if you do, or if you know anybody that does, I've got you. I've got you taken care of.
It's like a family doctor or your barber, or like, yeah,
literally.
There is a loyalty factor and
Right.
there is a trust factor. You've been entrusted with their highest acquisition, monetarily, highest or acquisition or disposition. You've handed over your children, your best friends, and then all of a sudden, realtors just shut it down. Why? Like, I don't understand, and I see it on a regular basis, whether it be internally or externally, outside of our brokerage. You see it. You go back in time when I started, and it's like, what happened to so and so? We just fade away.
I don't know this, but I want to just pose the question. I'm wondering whether some realtors just don't think they're worth it. So that they kind of have some sort of self-deprecating idea themselves. They'll never know I'm gone. Didn't matter to them. I wasn't that important. That they, and maybe that goes against the profile of most realtors, who are probably a little full of themselves. But I wonder if deep down there's sort of some sense of worthiness that sort of says, it doesn't really matter. They don't care.
Is that the scarcity mindset that you were talking about?
I'm wondering.
One thing that I do know for sure, I'm not sure. Look, we come out of real estate college, and we have a business card, and it's salesperson or broker. No, nobody talks about us being business owners. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maria Vieira, on the last episode, she spoke about we can sell coffee shops, we can sell grocery stores, we can sell coffee trucks, we can sell any business except our own business. I've never seen a realtor's business or database on MLS or for sale. We don't sell we don't treat it as a business. Yeah. The coffee beans and real estate, the title of the show is, one of the first conversations I have with newcomer to the business is coffee beans. And what does coffee beans have to do with real estate? Everything. I try to have them build a business as if they were a business owner of a coffee shop, where you come in and you work on your business. You come in, fill the sugar dispensers and et cetera, working on your business. We don't have that mindset. So we come in without that mindset. We leave without that mindset. We just walk away from our business. We don't sell it. And it's a shame. It's a shame because you can have a legacy of relationships and business that are transferable. You can, look, the money's good. We all need money to fuel our vehicles and to put food in our bellies and our fridges. And you can monetize this forever.
And you can also, just to sort of springboard off that idea, like when I was still in Toronto, and every November, I would sit down and I would say, okay, what does next year look like? Right. How many transactions am I going to try to complete? What kind of GCI I'm going to be looking at? And so you break, and I would break it down quarterly, and I would look at the charts from Buffini, and I would see when were my busy periods and when was my slower periods, and how could I kind of even that out so that I was consistently busy all year long. You can do the same thing with the adoption program. You can ask yourself, listen, how many transactions can I expect from my database in absentee? From these people or person that is taking care of my business.
It's predictable.
Well, you can set goals for your database even when you're not running it.
Right.
And so that's sort of what I'm looking at right now. Like, back in the day, we used to say pretty solid. I think it was one of the coaches that said you can pretty much count on 10% return on you. So if you've got 100 people in your database, you'll do 10 deals.
You get 10 referrals. Yeah, I think that's actually low. I think if you are, based on experience, personal experience as a selling realtor, and now what I see in the office as manager, I'm just president now.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if it's a demotion.
No, I don't. It's a promotion.
It's a promotion. I don't know, but my experience is that the number 10% is probably
Okay.
a little lean. But if you're working actively on building a nurturing and fostering relationships with your database, we're not going to get into monetizing. But is there any upfront cost for let's say, the person that adopted your business? So your partners, I guess, or your team. Is there an upfront cost to them? So, if you're at home and saying, look, hey, I want to be part of this, is there any transfer of money from
No. Other than your time and your commitment, no. And, in my experience, too, like you say, it's early days, but, man, I have received so much thanks and gratitude.
Right.
Because, and in a way I don't really get it, because I'm like, I picked you because you're super capable. Because, like I said before, you align with my ideology about selling. So, it shouldn't come to you as such a great surprise, but super grateful, lots of gratitude, thanks at every opportunity. So that kind of makes me feel good, like I did something. But no, in terms of costs, I mean, you just, as the person that's receiving the database, you just have to be committed to following through and doing what I hired you to do, basically.
Pretty much, because he who giveth can taketh away. Right?
Well, that's a very good question. That's a very good point.
She who giveth.
Yeah, can taketh away.
Yeah.
And just, again, generally in a contractual basis, something for people to think about is, like, where does your database reside? And,
where does your database
my
reside?
database resides with the brokerage that I started with.
Yeah, the back office. So you control the database, and you control everything about it, and it's contractually bound. Right?
Yes.
So this is not it's a handoff, and it's more than a handshake. This is a legally binding contract.
And there, that has to get fine-tuned, and like you say, you can customize it and everything. But to the point is that, if for whatever reason the relationship doesn't work out, the database, like it still belongs to me and the brokerage.
Yeah. If they leave the province or the city, as you did,
right,
you control the next move. Right?
Exactly.
You control who you select. I know this is a delicate thing for you, the selection process, and you mentioned, you can't give it to your best friend or your neighbor. You have to be careful who you hand it off to.
Yeah.
And I know you have a lot of relationships in the brokers that you're in.
I do.
It had to have been a delicate sort of situation for you to navigate through that.
And it was. And
we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
I just want to say one thing about that, and that is that I think that the arm's length relationship that I ended up choosing was the smartest thing I could have done, because I observed the performance of a bunch of different people, kind of just, sitting back and watching how they ran their businesses and what their social media presence is like, what their volume of sales is like, how many years they've been in the business. These are all things, these are metrics that I used to choose, one of the things that came up in one of the publications that you recommended was, like, you think you're going to pick a newbie because, like, they're really hungry. They don't know anything, and you're handing them a 15-year-old database, a 20-year-old database? No. They have to have experience. They have to have been in the industry long enough that they've managed their own business to a level that that I felt was acceptable.
Because of your fit, like in your particular situation, you couldn't be here to nurture a newbie, as you said. Maria, in the last episode, she handed it over to her 2 daughters and son-in-law, I think. So she had time to sort of not wean herself out of it, but foster their growth and development. In your case, you couldn't. You had to go with somebody who was already in third gear. And
to that point, you and I, that was a model that I tried to work with as well. So before I had made the transition out of the GTA, and I was thinking about this happening, that was another model. Bring
Right.
somebody on who's super junior, who that you can mentor and develop and bring all the value that I have for all the years that I work to somebody young. But that's a whole other ball of wax. That's something else entirely.
You need more time for that. You didn't have the luxury of time in this case, but if you were, so here's a question, maybe statement. If you are, I associate real estate to a stick shift or a 4-speed transmission.
Yeah.
Maybe a 5-speed transmission
Okay.
with an overdrive. I think my next tattoo is going to have the 5-speed Hearst shifter knob. And, first gear, rookie years from day 1 to year 5, second gear, 5 to 10, third gear, 10 to 15, and then fourth and so on. And then overdrive is when. So when do you think, or when, in your opinion, should realtors start thinking about this whole succession plan and adoption plan?
It's such a good analogy because, to your point, if, realtors may experience burnout at different times, and sometimes they recover from burnout and they come back and they're doing okay. But putting that kind of a scenario aside, if you're in what you would say fourth gear, so you're a mature realtor like I am, and you're now thinking about this transition out of the industry and how's this adoption plan going to work, you may already have like one foot out the door already, and in some ways it may be a little bit too late. So, for everybody that's watching and listening, wind that back to maybe like third gear. So now you're like, my business is going really well, it's ticking along, but in 5 years, maybe I'm going to be feeling differently about it. But if you wait those 5 years, you may be closer to like literally hanging that shingle up and just letting your database completely dissolve. So there's a risk.
And it will. The database will resolve because you're emotionally divested of it. You're like, and it comes across. It comes out.
It does.
Whether you're a broker owner, it comes out, and there is burnout. And one of the hardest things in this business, and again, we touched on this in the last episode, you can have a great start. You can have a great whole shot in first gear, but if you miss second, you're out of the business in no time. Sustaining the business from gear 1 to overdrive is tough. It's a tough business. There's a lot of burnout. My experience tells me that burnout is year 15 to 20.
Right.
And if you let it go beyond 20 is cruise control, right? And at that time, I agree with you. I think you're just rolling towards the finish line. Or in third gear, you're still lifting the front wheels.
But with this model, this adoption plan model, you can still, like one of that, we talked about the levels of involvement at the earlier part of the podcast. You can still be what they call totally done. But you're still reaping the benefits. So, do you want to be totally done and like have no database, or do you want to be totally done and still accepting residuals from somebody who's adopted your database? It's up to you.
But you got to plan for it.
Totally.
Yeah, you can't wake up one morning and say, hey, Manny, I want to do this. What do you think? I think, I think
maybe it's a bit too late.
Too late, yeah.
And why is it too late? Because you haven't nurtured your database. You haven't kept in touch with them. So they just assume that and they've moved on.
They've assumed that you've abandoned them a long time ago. They stop. Look, it's chronic in our industry where, some of the NAR stats that we pull out south of the border, exit polls with clients that have just bought or sold, 85% would use the same realtor. A year later, they don't hear from the realtor again, and it's the reverse. So when they buy and sell, 80% of those people are buying and selling with somebody else because they stop hearing from us. Again, the whole business mindset.
Just one other thing I wanted to mention when you're talking about that, it made me think of it. If you're not completely handing your database over to the people who've adopted it, and you still have some level of involvement, which is kind of like what my scenario is, coaching them on how your clients want to be marketed to is super important as well, so that there's some sort of consistency there. And that, so, one of the things I spent a lot of time on was like kind of client appreciation events and, different recognition and milestones throughout the year. And so
I'm going to miss your apple pies.
I know.
And
my
your
photo days.
Photo days. And what was the other one? We had the Scotch tasting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite. Yeah. Real events, folks.
But so, yeah, if there's, so you want to make sure that those folks that are adopting your database are going to market to that database. They don't just kind of wait for you to call and go, I got another referral for you. Yeah. Like when you were talking about upfront costs, like other than their time and their commitment, there isn't anything. But, for them to know that you're expecting them to reach out, contact them, stay in touch, let them know, where they're at, it's super important.
Yeah, and because you're in gear 3 career-wise still, you can monitor the situation. You can see, because we know there's a certain predictability to the turnover in the database, the 10%, 20% referral. You can monitor it. So if your sales are down or something's going on that is not what you're accustomed to in the turnover of the database, you can track it.
Yeah.
Because you're still engaged and you still and you guys have a fairly good contact, sort of regular contact.
Yep.
And you're not that far.
No. You used a really great term when we started talking about this, when I was just sort of like, how do I do this? Where do I start? And you used the word team members. And I just thought that was so great because, it's not a real estate team in the traditional sense. You're not bringing in a buyer rep and an admin.
Right.
And it's not that, but they still are. And so that's how that's your team. Yeah. And if your clients know that that's all your team, that also they relax and they feel confident. Right?
Really good point. Again, because you're behind you. Not to say you're a team leader, but you, in essence, you are looked at as a team leader. And again, so the whole being part of the team, the client trusts that you trust, and off we go. So I have, as a broker owner, a struggle in conveying this message to realtors. What advice do you have for me? What can I change about the message or delivery of message? Or maybe what advice do you give to realtors that are in gear 2 and 3? Like, what do you say to them? And how to anticipate for either a move or I'm slowly transitioning out of this business and looking at retirement. What advice do you have?
It feels weird giving my broker advice.
Oh, please.
My past broker advice. But I think that and again, this may be more personal, but I think that a lot of realtors don't recognize the value of their database. And I think, and a lot of times, that getting back to that kind of self-deprecation, it's not that much, or, I haven't done very much with it lately, or whatever. So for you to be able to elevate their own perception of what they have.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And listen, you've been an award winner 5 years in a row. You're in the top however many percentage of the brokerage every year. You do have a rewarding database.
Right.
And for them to realize that there's something there that they can leverage. And I think that I was getting really close to 4th gear before I did this, and I was just ready to just pack it in. But you were the one who said, "Listen, there's still life left in this."
Oh wow, yeah.
And why are you just gonna? Because what would happen is it just becomes fractured. Right? Imagine taking a piece of so your database is a piece of glass, and you just smash it, and what happens is all those clients just go off in a million different directions. or you can hold on to that piece of glass. In one piece. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but they'll just get splintered and they'll just go off in a million different directions.
It's a great analogy. I've heard, they go back into the sea of buyers and sellers.
And guess what? Excuse me. They risk getting represented by a crappy realtor. There is that risk.
And there is that resentment. We talked about it, the resentment or the expectation that the client wants to be handed off as well. Whether, we don't think that, that's likely or an actual thing. But if we're a doctor or lawyer, you'd want that whole handoff, that whole transition.
Do you want, I think that's another question. Like, do I want to risk my really great value clients getting fractured off to a less than competent realtor, somebody who's maybe not going to give them the level of representation that I gave them?
So we owe it to our...
Again, back to that.
And look, it's a great point. As a broker, as an owner, that matters to me. That's something I'm aware of. As I'm going to put this here on the table.
Oh, nice.
As a business owner, I'm aware of this, and it matters to me. And if I'm transitioning out of the ownership of the brokerage, what you see, we saw it a couple of weeks ago. It's like an overnight thing. Somebody pulls a switch and, I'm no longer under this brand, or I'm no longer with under Manny's management, and I came here. So I'm quite aware of that. I don't know if it's not unique, but it's not across the board in our industry. So it's a really good point. It's unfair to allow the fracture, right? Like you said, it splinters off, and then agents have we treat clients as commodities and agents as commodities as a business owner, and it's unfair.
And to the point of that splintering, specifically in my database, there are so many, I can trace a dozen people to one referral.
Right.
So now and they know each other, right? So even though they don't know what's going on in everybody's personal, residential real estate journeys, they all know that so-and-so referred so-and-so who referred so-and-so, and that they all are under my umbrella. So, I think that allowing your really successful and whoever realtors are thinking about making this move, that they have something really valuable.
Yeah. Okay. So look, lesson learned, Lucia. If you're watching, or I'm sure you're going to watch this, maybe we need to, we teach agents how to, and all we spoke about today was database and working by referral, and that's your bread and butter, right? Mm-hmm. You did Buffini.
Yep.
Did you have that sort of expectation when you first joined? Is that this is how I'm going to build my business?
I had no clue.
No clue.
I was
okay. We can just end at no clue, because that's right across the board. They come out of college and no clue. So you built your business on referrals.
Yep.
Database.
Yep.
Relationships.
Yep.
Amen to that. The whole transition has to be planned.
Yes.
We're talking about you come into this. You come into business. It's a business. You started off as a business. You build it like a foundation, like a house, like a building, like anything. Footing, foundation, and you build it up, and you build it strong, and then you get to your point in your life that life precipitated some sort of change, and you need to change area codes, and you have a business that you can hand off to someone else, and you can build a team.
Yep.
And you can, listen, if it was a shoe store or a coffee shop, it's okay to say, you built a legacy, and now you can still monetize it. It's not, people aren't commodities, but you have a business that you could transfer, hand off, and still be rewarded financially for the hard work and for the strength of the business that you built.
Yeah, and I think that any realtor that's thinking about making this move, and some of their reservations is about, oh my God, it's too much work, and I don't know where to start, and it's not worth it.
Is it a lot of work?
It's not. if you
You can scan the QR code.
if you are really involved in the selection process, and that's something that you guys would facilitate. You encouraged me, and you also made me feel like I made the right choice. So that's the single most significant decision that you're going to make if you're me, is who I'm going to choose.
Right.
But it's not a lot of work. And if you choose properly, and like you said, sometimes things don't work out and you move on. And like I tried different models. Like I said, this nurturing idea of bringing a rookie in, that wasn't quite right for me. But if you make the right selection, it's literally a no-brainer.
And you did a lot of work in behind the scenes.
I did.
When you came to us, you had things, you had the most fundamental pieces already in place. And that was the idea of who you wanted to work with.
And I can't impress upon people enough, you have to be ready. Mentally you have to be ready, because it's a huge transition. You're taking a completely different approach to your business. You're defining a new role also for yourself.
It's scary.
And so now, you're still kind of the CEO, but are you really? And what are you, just the chairman of the board now? I'm not really sure.
Are you talking about me, or are you? No, because that's where I'm at.
Right.
Look, I have.
Right.
I'm no different as a business owner.
No.
Right. We have Lucia now as the broker of record.
Right.
And transitioned in as sales manager, and I think I'm still CEO and president, but it's anticipating, what's coming and preparing for it.
Yeah. And
we don't do it. We don't often do that. We don't have. We're like athletes. We go hard, and it's 2-a-day practices and playing every 3 days, and all of a sudden it's over. Yeah. What next? So you have the what next. You have that resolved. What next for you is you're starting from scratch. Where you're going, but yeah, you're still in third gear. I think for me, it's a little bit different. I want to make sure. I don't know if it's narcissistic or not, but I want to make sure that our people, our brokerage, our brand is taken care of. So you need to plan things. You need to put things in place, and it's not an overnight.
No.
So you need it's an ongoing, and maybe my transmission has 8 gears. My truck has 8 gears, so I'm beyond fourth, but it's good. Listen, there's a lot to it. Would you do anything differently? Like 5 years ago, you couldn't have anticipated how your life changed, right? Or maybe
no.
Would
I have done anything differently? I may have started the process a little sooner. I think that, in my personal set of circumstances, I think I risked allowing my database to go a little bit dormant before I made this transition. Okay,
you're being hard on yourself. You and I, and then with Lucia, we were always, that's something we harp on, and I think you were always acutely aware of where your database was, and needed to be. I think, that whole culling discussion that we had, I think you were very mindful of where it was. So. But fair. If you were going to do something different, you'd be more aware. Fine.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think so. But it's super early days for me. But I'm so optimistic, and I'm also kind of re-energized about having this new role in my business, and also having kind of being a bit of a team leader, and how I can leverage this existing database. Not only for me, but honestly, for my clients.
For the clients, yeah. And the clients are, in many cases, friends, relationships. Yeah. You're here, we're talking about the handoff. Do you feel like a rookie where you're at now?
No, not at all.
No, okay.
Because, I never forget where I came from. Somebody said to me, they changed careers. I think they were doing cutting hair or something, and then they went into another type of profession. They go, it's all the same. It's just you're doing something else. You're not using scissors. You know what I mean? But business in a way is still business. So like I'm still employing all the skills that I did here.
Right. I'm
still, all the ways of building a business I'm doing there. So I don't feel like a rookie. As a matter of fact, I command respect. I want people to know, like, I'm not just walking in the door.
Right.
So, you know.
And that's easy. The minute, people get to know you or introduce you, well, I mean, you walk the walk, right? You talk the talk. You came into Toronto today. How long did it take you?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Do you miss Toronto? A little bit.
A little bit. It's just that, like I said, I'm collecting CPP now, and so I really like the slow.
Yes, me too.
I love the slower pace. I have 3/4 of an acre. My dog absolutely loves it. I'm on the water.
Okay, enough.
Okay,
enough.
So, and the snow is white there, Manny. Okay, it's not like, all splashed up against the side of the cars.
For reference, we are at DuPont and Dufferin recording this, and the snow here isn't white, at least not anymore.
No.
And yeah, it's a little bit different, yeah.
But it's too far to commute.
3/4 of an acre, you can build 20 houses in.
No.
Come on now.
It's a little bit of a commute, though, and so that's another reason why this whole adoption plan makes so much sense for me. And I'm happy to come in, like if a client needs me or whatever, it's not that far.
Yeah.
And I'll happily do it.
I like joking with people. I live right in the middle of it all.
Right. You walk everywhere.
Yeah, I can walk to work, and it's a privilege, but it's, Midtown or downtown. I don't know. It's West End. I'm not even sure what it is anymore. The pursuit of it. Can you come up with one word? Noun, adjective, verb. You're the language expert. One word that defined you or defined an agent. So when you say she has it, Sarah has it. What does Sarah have?
It factor.
What is it? I was talking to my daughter this morning on her way in, and we're trying to. She gave me a couple of, I'm not going to say because I don't want to sway you, but what is it? What does Ronaldo have? What's his it? What did Gretzky have?
I wish I could say one word.
Oh, that's all you got.
I got one, eh?
You can give
probably
me
perseverance.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mixed with some mindfulness. So, and what I mean by that is you don't just keep your head down and just keep pushing all the time, because I don't think that yields the type of results. Remember people used to say, just keep your head down, just keep going.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's what it is. I think you have to persevere, but you have to persevere with a certain amount of awareness.
So the old bumper sticker, I owe, after work I go, that's perseverance, but you're saying it's beyond that. It's not just stubbornness.
No.
Right. So being aware of where you're going.
Yeah.
That's good. But that's not one word. So that's one word with a bunch of asterisks. But anyways, listen, it's a fun it's a fun sort of podcast, and we covered so many different things today.
Did.
But there's no fear in this handoff. There's no. You just got a plan for it?
Yep, I'm excited, and I'm excited. I'm confident, and I just feel like I did the right thing.
Oh, you did. We have no doubt.
We won't, again, not just before we end, because you spoke about this, but there is a really big top producer, not in our brokerage or anything, but just in the GTA, and they were kind of always somebody that I was looking over my shoulder at, and they did the unthinkable. And they literally just, and I don't know what happened. And I think I took that to heart when I saw that, and I didn't want that to be me. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, and we can end off that way because we don't prepare for it, we don't anticipate it. Burnout sets in, resentment sets in sometimes, and then we leave the business and we have nothing to show for it. No legacy, no path forward, no strategy, no plan, and our clients are left in the cold or in the dark, and good for you for doing it. Thanks for coming in, and say hi to Craig.
I will.
And
so much fun.
Let the dog run free. Because 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Great to have you. I really appreciate you coming in. Thank you. Until next time. So we just wrapped up recording another podcast, and we're talking about the Supreme Handoff and what is it. My experience in almost 4 decades in real estate, organized real estate, is that realtors don't often treat our business as a business. And when we are winding down our business or our careers, we just walk away from it all. And I think that's unfortunate. We have a plan. It's called the Supreme Handoff. It's something that you implement, you monitor, you track, and you make money off of it. You carry on the legacy that you built. And just as importantly, we honor the clients and the relationships that we built and fostered over 10, 15, 20, 30, in my case, 40 years. The clients almost expect us to hand it off, and often we don't. Most often we don't. So if you want to get more information on this program, contact us at the office. We'll be discreet, we'll be confidential, and have a conversation. How do I transfer this? How do I carry on my legacy of my business onto someone else and honor and respect the relationships that I built, and I can make some money off of it and go on a perpetual vacation? For more information, give us a call. It will be discreet and confidential. Call myself at the office, 416-535-8000, or our broker of record, Lucia Macedo. I'm more than happy to have a discussion with you in all strict confidence.